الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد جل فرجهم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we continue on with our discussion in Islamic law or Islamic jurisprudence. We are still in the early section in the issue of purification, and we went through what are the things that are impure, and we're speaking here physical purification, the things that are impure and how we can purify from them. So we have discussed water as one of the purifiers. In fact, one of the major purifiers is water. The other one is earth. So one of the purifiers is earth. We did discuss water in a few sessions, and please, if you have questions regarding what we've discussed so far or related to those issues, we have also the Slido, and you can ask here in person as well. The second one we said is earth. So earth is a purifier, but not to everything, obviously. Certain things could be purified by earth, and generally speaking, it is one's shoes. The sole of our soul is the bottom, yeah? So the sole of the shoes, the bottom of the shoes that is in contact with the ground, with the earth, it does get purified by walking on earth, provided that there is no remnants of the impurity on it. So for instance, let's say one steps in an area that there is, some blood, for example. If the blood is still on the sole of the shoes, earth is not going to purify it. If you walk and walk to the point where there's no more blood on it, then after the removal of what we call aynun najasa, the actual impurity, if you walk another 15 steps on dry earth, you can consider those shoes, the bottom of your shoes, to be tahir. So there is, so based on the ruling, it says that it has to be based on najasa. That is also, it is based on obligatory precaution. It only purifies impurity on the sole of the shoes if it happens through walking as well. Okay, so if you were not walking and something spilled on the shoe, that is not does not apply. So it applies if one is walking, steps in some najis thing, then let's say that najis thing is no longer on the sole of the shoes as the actual najasa, then you walk the steps, and then it becomes the sole of the shoes becomes pure. And it's important to keep in mind that it cannot be basically that earth or ground, it cannot be wet. Okay, so if it's wet, it's not going to purify. So the process seems to have to do with the sole, some layer of it going away as we walk, perhaps, and that's how it becomes pure. So that's earth purifying. In terms of the next purifier is the sun. Okay, so we said the sun does purify certain things, but I think it came up before, and I explained that it does not purify things that it shines on if they are on our clothing or mobile things. It purifies fixtures, so exterior building, the pavement and things like that. If if it gets najis and then the actual najasa is no longer there, then the sun shines on it, it purifies it. Okay, so but we have to keep in mind that the actual impurity is no longer there. If it's still there, it's not going to become pure. So you may ask, how does it become pure? Let's say, you know, on the roof of a building, okay? A rat has some droppings. Now, droppings from the rat is najis. It's impure, okay? So it's still there. The sun is shining on it. Is it pure? No. When does it become pure? If it becomes somehow disintegrated with time, where it's no longer there, or, you know, with the rain it gets washed away or something. Otherwise, if it's still there, the sun is not going to purify it. So I hope we understand. So the actual najasa cannot be there for the sun to purify. The next one is what they refer to in Arabic as istihala. And there are two, istihala and inqilab. Two, so 4 and 5, istihala and inqilab. Why am I bringing both of them at the same time, or sharing both at the same time? It's because people sometimes confuse the two. Istihala is, some translate it as chemical change. It is incorrect. The translation of chemical change is incorrect. Examples, I can give you many examples. A simple example of chemical change that does not purify is, I've given this example before. If your flour gets najis, I'm talking about the flour as in the wheat flour, yeah? It gets najis, and let's say you had made dough and it's najis. Now, if you wait for it, it ferments. Yeah, there's a process that the dough ferments and starts puffing and so on. They make special breads with that at that point. You know, the longer they keep it, the nicer it gets. Obviously, there's a limit. I'm not a baker, and I'm not trying to give you a bakery lesson. Nevertheless, that process does cause chemical change. However, if the dough was najis, it's not going to become tahir by simply that chemical change. And many other examples, nevertheless. So istihala is complete disintegration. Chemically, it's completely something new, and texture-wise, it's completely something new. It changes from one thing to completely another thing, where it's no longer, it cannot be considered the original thing. Examples of that are things like wood burning and turning into ashes. Okay, so wood was najis, you burn it and turn it into ashes. Now the ashes, are they still najis? No, that's a completely new thing. Okay, so that is istihala, you know, completely changing into something else. Another one is some creature buried under the ground. Okay, and it, you know, the dead corpses are najis. Yeah, but after a while, it completely disintegrates with the ground and with the earth and so on, and it's no longer considered. If you take it out, there's nothing, no remnants, nothing of that. That is istihala. So complete disintegration is istihala, from one thing to another completely. The inqilab is not, is related. I say it's confused. Inqilab is a special case for basically wine turning into vinegar. Okay, so when wine becomes vinegar, if in the process of making vinegar from wine, you know, you have in the stores you could buy, they call it wine vinegar. Okay, red wine vinegar, for instance. So it used to be wine, it became vinegar. When it became vinegar, it's fine. That transformation makes it tahir. Amazingly, it also makes the container that they made it in also tahir. You know, so anything that comes in touch with wine becomes najis, yeah? So now the container that they made, they had the wine in, and they're now in the process of making it into vinegar, That container at some point was najis. When wine becomes vinegar, the container also becomes tahir. That is the process of inqilab, and it's a special case. Does it mean anything that turns from one thing to another becomes tahir and mix it with istihala? No, they're two different things. So istihala is one thing and inqilab is another thing. Inqilab is for wine to become vinegar, whereas istihala, complete disintegration and completely changing into something else. I think that suffices. We can have questions now. Yes?
If somebody make a wine in the clay pot, then either throw it or use it, and next time they use put grape or whatever and make a vinegar, is that pot became tahir?
That's a very I don't know, the engineering question. Okay, so the question is, the pot had wine in it, and they threw the wine away. Okay, the pot is still najis. Yeah, so they put another wine in there. Yeah, another grape or something else, and they turned wine into vinegar. Does that new process make the pot tahir? I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. Okay, I would advise, I can find that, I can research and find that. If not, the best thing is use precaution, wash it before. Okay, wash it multiple times, because wine needs to be washed multiple times. For the sake of precaution, 7 times actually. And that this is not, perhaps not for cleaning purposes and not just for physical purification, it's also to get it in our heads that this is impure, stay away from it. Certain rules are probably because we need to stay away from it, and that's why Quran says fajtanibu, stay away. It doesn't just make it haram, but also stay away from it. Don't sit at a table that people are drinking, don't carry it, don't serve it, and so on and so forth. So this is perhaps why, but Allahu A'lam. With that question, I say I don't know. So, okay, any other questions that I may know? Yes. There's one from the ladies, and then we'll come to you, bro. Yes. Here, Ahsan. Sure.
The way that we explain it, istihala and inqilab, that you try to explain it, it looks like something totally changed to something else.
Yeah.
Is it still confused? I don't know for the rest is the same. I still confused the way that you explain it. I didn't get it.
The difference?
Between the way that
Inqilab. So just one more time. Inqilab is a specific case for the changing of wine into vinegar. Okay? When wine becomes vinegar, it becomes tahir, and that is, they say, وَيَلْحَقُ بِهِ فِي ذَلِكَ الْعَصِيرُ الْعِنَبِي. So when grape juice becomes vinegar, wine becomes vinegar, and so that changes, when that change occurs, it becomes tahir. Okay, when wine becomes vinegar, so that becomes tahir.
so the applicability is only for
Inqilab.
for just wine?
Yes,
Nothing else.
nothing else. Inqilab is a specific case for wine into vinegar. Yes. Istihala is other things changing from one thing to another completely, not just this dough became bread or became fermented, or milk. A good example, milk becomes yogurt. Shiro must. If milk was najis, by changing into yogurt, it's not going to become tahir. It changed chemically, but that didn't make it tahir. So what we're speaking about is complete disintegration, something completely different. Okay, so that's when it becomes tahir. No problem. You had a question on Slido? Anyone here first? No? Okay. One question, I think, or one or two questions. Yes.
The question on the website is, would walking on grass purify the bottom of the shoe? I guess that's referring to about walking on earth.
Yeah, so walking on grass versus walking on earth. I don't know. I believe it is earth. I don't believe grass does, but I have to double check. Unless it's a mixed, grass area that you can still, there's still earth there. If it's actual, fully grass, like a good lawn where it's all grass, I don't believe it does, but I can double check. Walking on grass, does it purify the bottom of the shoes? Walking on earth does. Walking on grass, I don't believe so. I have to double check. Yes.
So the principle that you should assume that everything is pure until basically proven that it's not.
Yeah.
If you go to like a restaurant or if you go to somebody's house where alcohol is frequently served in glasses that may not be obvious, are you still supposed to assume that, or are you supposed to exercise that precaution that it probably...
Good question.
Because there are some glasses that it's obvious, but if it's like a regular looking glass, sometimes they serve things that are alcoholic.
Yeah. So the rule of everything is pure until you know it's not applies there. So the question, just so that everyone hears it in case they did not, if you go to restaurants and they're serving you, say, water or juice in a glass that they sometimes serve alcohol in those glasses. You assume that it's tahir and use it, or do you need to practice precaution? You can practice precaution, but Islamically the rule is if you don't know, you assume it's tahir. You didn't see that they served alcohol in it before, and you didn't see how they washed it and how many times they washed it afterwards. You didn't see any of those things. Therefore, you don't know that it's najis. You can assume it's tahir. If one wants to be extra cautious and practice precaution, they can, but they don't have to. They can assume it's tahir and use it. If they know that it was najis, that's a different story. When we see that it became najis, and then we need to make sure that it did become tahir afterwards. Okay, so when you know something is najis, then you have to ascertain that it did become tahir afterwards. Otherwise, if you don't know, you assume it's tahir. Yeah. Okay, I think that suffices. And you have anything else? No? That's it for... Okay. I think we're done with this issue. So.
The question was, what is the source of the light?
The source of Dua Tawassul. Misbah al-Kaf'ami. The book is Misbah al-Kaf'ami. He says from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. Yes, Misbah al-Kaf'ami is the source of Dua Tawassul. There are some who question al-Kaf'ami, and they have, suggested that there are issues and so on, and especially because the narration is from earlier Imams, and they say, how do we have the 12th Imam even before the 12th Imam? And that's ignorance, because the Imams of Ahlul Bayt frequently spoke about their children and who is going to become the Imam afterwards, including the Imam of our time, the 12th Imam. In fact, we have numerous ahadith from Imam Baqir and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam about the 12th Imam and about how he will be from the children of who, and his even ghaiba. And there's a famous hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam in which he says, "Law adraktuhu," if I reached his time, I would serve him all my life. لو أدركته لخدمته أيام حياتي. The Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that about the 12th Imam Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. So there's no need to doubt and question those du'as. There are some other doubts because of tawassul, the concept of tawassul. Inshallah, if we have a chance, we will revisit this. We have already discussed it in the past, but we will revisit the concept of intercession and seeking help from somebody other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is essentially, as long as, again in brief words, as long as our understanding is that they are only helping with the will and permission of the Almighty God, then there's no harm. But if we think that they can do anything without the permission of God, without the will of God, then there's a problem with that. But that's pretty, I think that's a discussion we can have another time. أحسن الله. والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.